Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about Lucifer, Satan, the devil. Lots of names. Are they
The
different?
accuser of the brethren, all
Yeah,
kinds
whatever
of
you want to
things.
call him. The bad guy. We're talking about the bad guy a little bit here. Just maybe answer a couple questions some people might have. So my first question is this a real being? Person, entity, whatever, or is this just like a metaphor? Because I know some people take that approach. There isn't really, Satan's not really like real like God is. It's just more of like a metaphor or whatever. So is he real?
I believe that he is, because if you go all the way back to Genesis, he appeared as a serpent to
Yep.
Eve in the garden. There's the first time we see him, in Scripture at least. But when we get to other chapters like Ezekiel in Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28, those are both chapters. The whole chapter's not about it, but it's interesting. It's talking about these. They're talking about like the king of these various countries, but what you realize is behind what Ezekiel and Isaiah are talking about, especially Ezekiel, they're talking about the spiritual entity behind the king of Tyre. Because if you go through and read that, when you get down to the middle of chapter 28 in Ezekiel, it switches. He was talking about the real king, but then he switches. Now he starts talking about you were in Eden, the garden of God. Oh, really? The king of Tyre was in Eden, the garden of God? So what we seem to get from this, Ezekiel is saying that the king of Tyre
Is being influenced.
because the king of Tyre and the literal king of Tyre was being manipulated by spiritual entities, of whom, Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to call him, was a part of. But there's other fallen angels as well, because you even see that in Daniel, when Daniel's praying, and all of a sudden he's praying for 21 days and nothing's happening. All of a sudden Michael shows up, boom, and he's going, "What the heck? Where have you been? I've been praying for 21 days and fasting, and you haven't shown up." And Michael said, "From the day you started praying, I left immediately to come to you, but I was opposed by the prince of Persia." You go, "Whoa, what the heck is that?" And then he also goes on to mention that after this, when he goes back, he has to fight the prince of Greece. So these princes that we're talking about are fallen angels. I'm not going to call them demons, because those are not the same, and we'll have to talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But these spiritual beings are representative of these world powers. I believe there's principalities and all these things that are influencing world affairs even today. So this being that we call Satan, he is a created being. And on top of him being a created being, that he can only be in one place. He's not omnipotent. He's not omnipresent, and he's not omniscient. So he can't know everything. He can't be everywhere at once. And he is, what was the other one? He's not all powerful. God could destroy him with the breath of his mouth, which he will at one day. But he is a being. He is powerful. But we don't need to fear him, because he is destroyed. He's defeated. Because, yes, he's still the prince of the power of the air, as Peter tells us, but he is nothing but a fallen being at this point, and he is subject to Christ. He only has control over the earth
if we give it to him.
And what we give him, right? Because like he tried to get Jesus to give him, when he appeared to Jesus in the temptations, and he took him up on a high mountain and said, "I'll give you all of this." Was Satan lying? I don't think so, because Jesus didn't say, "You're a liar. You can't do that." Jesus said, that, I'm trying to remember how he said it, that, I will worship the Lord and only the Lord. However he said it, when he rebuked him, he didn't rebuke him and say, "No, you don't have the power to do that." He fully had the power to do it, because Satan was in control, because Adam gave him dominion of the planet. Now Jesus took it back, but not completely, not until he comes back and sets up his kingdom, and we get a new heaven and a new earth. But ultimately, he is a defeated foe. He is a created being.
Got it. And so briefly talked about it because it's also super controversial. There's Satan, devil, Lucifer. Is that just describing the same being? Some people think it's different.
I think they're adjectives describing the same being.
Yeah.
Because you've got, the accuser of their brethren. That's one of the terms they use. He's the accuser, but they call him the father of lies. He's got all these different. They're just adjectives describing him.
Yeah.
Lucifer, I believe, some people will disagree, but because it's mentioned in those Old Testament passages, and even Jesus mentions it, that Lucifer is probably his name.
Right.
And it tells us who what he was. It says you were in the Eden, the garden of God, and it says you were an anointed cherub. So he's a cherub, so he's a very powerful angel, but he's still a being that was created by God.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And so I guess the main scriptures, he's like referenced obviously here and there, but there's only 2 real places where it extensively talks about him.
Where it describes him in detail, the Ezekiel 28 and the Isaiah 14 passages in the Old Testament. But Jesus makes allusions to him. Even in the book of Revelation, he's mentioned where it calls him the devil. So that term is used of him there. So different ways to describe him, but the most complete description of his fall is in those chapters in Ezekiel and Isaiah, because that's really the only place we really see him, first of all, in the garden. That's the first place we see him and go, where'd he come from? Well, we get the background in Isaiah and Ezekiel of where he actually came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he wasn't there forever. He's not he's not an eternal. He is an eternal being, but he was a created being. So he's not been there since the beginning of eternity.
Right. He's not God.
He's not
And
God.
that's why he kind of got kicked out.
Yeah, because he wanted to exalt himself, as it says, above the thrones. Where is it? He says, you were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until iniquity was found in you. Because you filled with violence and you sinned. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty and corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. So he was a beautiful angel, but he got corrupted and full of pride.
Yep.
And that's why God hates pride, because Satan.
That's how you fall.
That's where it all started.
Yep. It starts with pride. That's how.
Exactly right.
You get got like that. Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense for sure. We also made a comment before we started recording. There's only like really those 2 chapters, and he's very, mentioned here and there. There's not a lot about him. And I think that maybe on purpose, we don't need to focus on him. He's not that important.
There's one other weird place where he's mentioned in Jude. We won't spend any time on it, but I will. It's a short passage, so it is a weird. I won't elaborate on what I think
this
it means
is for you to go and discover on your own.
Yeah,
we'll give you a little something to dig up.
So Jude's a weird book, because Jude talks about the fallen angels and all this kind of stuff, but as he's sitting there talking about those things, in verse 8, because it's a 1-chapter book, he says, likewise, all those dreamers defile the flesh, reject authority, and speak evil of dignitaries. And then they go, what's he talking about? And then he says, yet Michael, the archangel, in contending with the devil, when disputing about the body of Moses, dared not bring any railing accusations against him, but just said, the Lord rebuke you. That is very weird. Very strange verse.
I don't know if I've read that before.
Moses is dead, and you go, where does this come from? Because it's not in the Old Testament. That's not recorded. Well, it comes from the book of Jasher, is where it comes from. So Jude had access to the book of Jasher in his day, and he's quoting the book of Jasher right here. So the book of Jasher was somewhat venerated for them to be quoting it. And
yeah, because it's not part of the canon.
It's not part of the canon. That's correct. But that's where it comes from, the book of Jasher.
Interesting.
But it's right there in Jude. So, and Jude also quotes Enoch, which is
interesting too.
Very interesting too.
Well, there's some things for us to go digging in, I guess, because I don't think I've ever read that before.
Most people haven't. They go, what the heck?
because Jude is very small and...
Yeah, and it's easy to miss that verse.
Yeah, 100%. You
Michael contending with the devil about the body of Moses. But the
Yeah.
focus, notice his focus is not on that, even though we go, whoa, 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 that's like,
Yeah, what is
that's
that?
crazy. What is that? But we focus on the wrong thing, because he said he didn't bring railing accusations. That was the point Jude was bringing it up. It's like he didn't, we should not be saying curse words at the devil, or Satan, whatever you want. We should not be cursing at him. The Bible makes it pretty clear that,
Yeah.
because he's a created being,
Yep.
and he's powerful. So, and I don't think it's wise to, you shouldn't give him airtime anyway, but
Yeah.
if Michael, the archangel, did not bring a railing accusation, then
Yeah.
we probably shouldn't either.
Yeah, we should keep our focus towards Jesus and what he's telling us
Let
to
Jesus
do.
take care of him.
Yep.
And he will one day.
100%. Just keep focusing on Jesus. If you get nothing else from any of these videos, keep focusing on Jesus. Read your Bible. Do, be obedient to what he's saying in your life. So, I love it. Awesome. We'll see you guys next time.